February 1974, Fullerton, California. A science fiction writer is sitting alone in a cheap apartment, recovering from dental surgery. He is broke, he is tired, and he has spent 20 years writing stories about reality being a lie. Stories about fake worlds built to deceive us. Stories about hidden intelligences operating just behind the surface of everyday life. He thought he was making things up. He was about to find out he wasn't. Section 1. Who was Philip K. Dick before 2374? To understand what happened to Philip K. Dick in 1974, you need to understand who he was before it happened. Born in Chicago in 1928, PKD grew up in Berkeley, California, and from almost the beginning, he was preoccupied with a single question: what is real? Not in a casual, philosophical way, in an urgent, almost desperate way, as though getting the answer wrong had consequences. He started publishing science fiction in the early 1950s, cranking out stories for pulp magazines at a rate that suggested either genius or desperation, and usually both. He wrote about androids that believed they were human, about governments that rewrote history in real time, about ordinary people who discovered that the world around them was a stage set, carefully constructed to keep them compliant. His most famous early novel, The Man in the High Castle, imagined a world where the Axis powers won World War II, and within that world, a novel existed describing a reality where the Allies won instead. Reality nested inside reality. Truth buried under a layer of official fiction. He wasn't considered serious literature. He was paperback science fiction, 30 cents at the drugstore rack. Critics ignored him. He lived in a series of cheap apartments, married 5 times, struggled with money constantly, and was, by most accounts, a genuinely kind and genuinely fragile person. By 1974, he was living in Fullerton with his 5th wife and their young son. He had just had a wisdom tooth removed. He was waiting for a delivery of pain medication. And then the door knocked. Section 2. The event. The delivery was from the pharmacy. A young woman stood at his door, holding the medication. She was wearing a necklace, a small gold pendant in the shape of a fish. In the early Christian church, the fish symbol, the ichthys, was used as a secret identifier. Christians living under Roman persecution would draw half the symbol in the dirt. If a stranger completed the drawing, you knew they were safe. The fish meant, I know the truth. I am not your enemy. We are living under a false empire. PKD later said he didn't consciously register any of this in the moment. But something happened when the light caught that necklace. He described it as a beam of pink or rose-colored light hitting him directly. Not metaphorically, physically. A transmission. And in that transmission, an enormous amount of information arrived all at once. He knew things he had no way of knowing. He knew that his young son was in medical danger, a condition that hadn't been diagnosed yet. He sent the boy to a doctor. The doctor found a previously undetected birth defect requiring immediate surgery. PKD credited the transmission with saving his son's life. He knew, or believed he knew, the structure of reality beneath the surface reality, the prison underneath the world. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that he had known all of this before, that he was remembering, not learning. That something had been taken from him long ago and had just been returned. The visions continued for weeks. He saw ancient Rome superimposed over 1974 California. He experienced himself simultaneously as Philip in Fullerton and as a man named Thomas, a first-century Christian living under Roman persecution. Both felt equally real. He wasn't sure which one was the dream. He called it the 3rd of February 74, February and March 1974, the 2 months when the transmission came through. Section 3. VALIS and the Black Iron Prison. PKD spent the next 8 years trying to understand what had happened to him. A way of organizing the experience that he called the exegesis, from the Greek word for explanation or interpretation. At its center were two opposing forces. The first he called VALIS, Vast Active Living Intelligence System, an ancient, satellite-like consciousness that had been broadcasting information toward Earth for thousands of years, trying to wake humanity up, trying to break through the signal jamming of the second force. The second force he called the Black Iron Prison. The Black Iron Prison was not a metaphor, or rather, PKD didn't treat it as a metaphor. The false reality layered over true reality, the empire of lies. And here's the part that should make your skin prickle. He believed the Roman Empire never ended, not symbolically. He believed that the actual Roman imperial system, the top-down control structure, the worship of authority, the suppression of individual spiritual knowledge, simply changed its costume over the centuries, became the medieval church, became the nation-state, became the modern corporation and government apparatus. We think we live in the 20th century. PKD thought we live in 70 AD and don't know it. The prison walls are invisible because we were born inside them. VALIS was trying to break those walls down. The pink beam was a crack in the prison. And PKD, for those 2 months in 1974, had seen through it. Section 4. The secret document. What do you do with an experience like that? PKD wrote about it, constantly, privately, obsessively. The Exegesis grew to approximately 8,000 handwritten pages over 8 years. He worked on it in secret, alongside his published fiction, not instead of it. His novels VALIS, The Divine Invasion, and The Transmigration of Timothy Archer, all published in his final years, are the fictional surface version of what the Exegesis contains underneath. He wrote letters to philosophers, theologians, physicists. He tried to find frameworks that could contain what he had experienced: Gnosticism, quantum physics, Jungian psychology, early Christian mysticism. He discarded each one when it failed to fully explain, then kept going. He wasn't sure if he had encountered God, an alien intelligence, his own subconscious, a side effect of the dental drugs. He considered all of these possibilities seriously. He never landed on a definitive answer. The Exegesis is the record of a man wrestling with the most important question of his life and refusing to pretend he had solved it. Philip K. Dick died of a stroke in March 1982. He was 53. He had been working on the Exegesis until nearly the end. The document sat in the hands of his estate for nearly 30 years. An edited selection, roughly 900 pages from the original 8,000, was finally published in 2011. The rest remains unpublished. The rest, the majority of what he wrote, the largest portion of the most important document of his life, is still not available to you. Someone decided what you were allowed to read and what you weren't. This week on Illuminated Infamy, we go inside the Exegesis. We look at what PKD believed he was shown, what it means for the world we think we live in, and why a document this significant sat hidden for 3 decades. Tomorrow, Missing Author Monday, we talk about the other Philip K. Dick, the twin sister who died 6 weeks after birth, whose absence shaped everything he ever wrote, and who he believed was still with him when the pink beam arrived. The Exegesis isn't just a book about one man's breakdown. It's a map of a prison. And according to Philip K. Dick, we're all living in it right now.